Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Mrazik of EAS. Welcome to Sports Psychology 123. Today, I'm very pleased to have Stephan as my special guest. Stephan Bokalo is a retired high-level freestyle mogul skier. He competed for the Alberta Mogul team, which is a high-performance team, and trained all over the world. He had the pleasure of working with me past year, which was a big part of his mental performance. Thanks for joining us, Stephan. Welcome.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So, as a high performance skier, it's there's a lot to laying down a good run. There's a lot to just being ready and ready for that performance. Tell us just a little bit about the mindset as a mogul skier. Not everybody does what you do, and some people think you're crazy to do what you do with everything and all the demands. But just tell us a little bit of as you grew as a skier. What were some of the mindsets? What are some of the things that were helpful for you as you just continued in your career and you got to be at a higher and a higher elite level of skiing?
For sure. Yeah. Mindset is everything. It definitely sets you up for the most amount of success. Some days you show up and, you don't feel like you're ready to be there and you got to find a way to be ready. And yeah, that's where this all kind of applies. Definitely. It's a high speed sport that's got some pretty big risks if, you're not ready to rock. Yeah. Definitely trying to be relaxed as possible is like the number one goal in my opinion, at least for myself and my success. As hectic as it can be, trying to stay calm is always my goal. So focusing on some breathing or, just kind of looking around, distracting yourself a little bit about before you're going to do something kind of crazy is something I find really helps me out quite a bit.
Yeah, there's so much to that mental side of preparation and being in the moment and all that kind of stuff. So just tell us a little bit now, more about right now. So you've kind of shifted away from the competitive skiing. What are you up to these days? What's kind of keeping you busy?
Yeah, I am the head coach of Jasper Freeride, which is a club level ski team out of Marmot Basin. So that's what's been taking up my time for the last year since I retired from mogul skiing. So it's definitely quite a bit of a change, but an awesome opportunity and an opportunity to look at competition from another angle. And that's been one of the biggest pleasures I've had is just seeing how coaches in the past that I've worked with have, the ways that they've attacked the way they're trying to help me out and ways that I can now translate that into the athletes that I get to work with.
It's interesting to me because here you were, you skied. How many hours did you put into your skiing for years and years and years? And then you decide to, no longer be in the competitive skiing and yet you go back to the sport. And so there seems to be something that draws you to actually being back into the sport. Walk us through, like, what was a little bit of that experience like for you that, I'm sure you just had to decide, well, what's next for me? And yet you've come back into coaching. Tell us a little bit more about what that was about and what actually drew you back to being in the coaching ranks now.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely had my career cut a little short just due to some pretty big injuries and stuff like that. And I still had some drive there to be a part of the sport. I feel like I was kind of cut from the knees, but still had great intentions for the sport and just, skiing in general. And as well as just some knowledge that I felt like could be passed on to some generations and whatnot and some younger athletes. And yeah, that ultimately was what encouraged me to continue in the sport. And, now working with coaches and other athletes, it's quite an opportunity. So getting to pass on some knowledge that I had has been probably the best opportunity, as well as working with, other coaches and younger kids now and learning and having experiences that they're going through and soaking that in and seeing how that could have, maybe been useful in my career and kind of then translating that and putting that used to coaching to help them improve.
Would you say, Stephan, that you've kind of realized how much you actually learned now that you're on the coaching side of things, like all the experiences you have and coaching, you step away from it a little bit in terms of being there yourself, but you have all this knowledge and all this experiences. Would you say that's really it, like you really are understanding, like, wow, there's a lot to this coaching, but there's a lot that I've learned that you're going to pass on to other athletes. Is that part of your experience as well?
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the first things that I noticed as soon as I started to coach and really immerse myself in that side of things was, taking yourself out of the athlete's shoes and putting yourself in a very, in that coaching standpoint and assessing more kids skiing and just the way that they kind of look at things, you realize how much knowledge that you've soaked in from other competitors and other coaches that you've had that have really had an impact on you, and how much knowledge you've picked up that you can transfer. So that's been super, super helpful and super eye-opening as well. Whereas things that I feel like I could have changed in the past, and now that I'm like trying to help kids out and all these young athletes, there's so much knowledge that I'm still learning as well, and getting to work with other coaches who have been in similar positions as well, and getting to bounce ideas off each other has been quite awesome.
Yeah, no, I think that that's the richness of what you're going to offer to the kids and the other competitors that you work with, right? Is man, you accumulated a real library of knowledge and information that's going to be just invaluable, and you put yourself in a position where now you're going to use that in a really positive and beneficial way. I'm sure there's part of you that probably wants to still be skiing. You probably have those flashes, but I think it's also interesting that in your decision now your eyes get open to all kinds of things that maybe you knew of but you didn't really think about, and as a coach just really being aware of those things. So there's so much to making that transition. That's really great. So okay, so the plan is you're gonna do some coaching. Anything else for you personally beyond that, or is it kind of right now the focus is on coaching and then kind of making determinations about your next steps?
Yeah, I would say kind of that at the moment. Really enjoying what I'm doing now. Yeah, I still have some interest to be an athlete. I'm still quite young, so and not sure if that's from just I guess being involved in sports. I'm not sure if that's wanting to be more of a coach or still more of an athlete. But yeah, there's still some drive in there for sure.
Well, there's rumors about your really good golf skills. Maybe that's another podcast where we can talk about the transferable skills that you have. But I've heard through the rumor mill that Stephan knows how to golf. He's really lined in. So maybe that's part of your next step. I don't know, masters. Maybe that's in your future. But I know you're a bit of a golfer.
Yeah, I don't know about the Masters, but definitely like just being out there. That's the best part about it.
That's great. I love golf, but I hate golf because it's just one of those things. I just don't have that natural ability. All right, so we want to dive into the sports psychology section here, and so what we're going to do is just I'm going to give you a couple questions and just come back with your thoughts here. So as we think about these questions, again, these are quick hitters. These are things that this is your information that you're passing on to others. So let's go back to this whole concept of you being a mogul skier. We know that when it comes to laying down a good run, like there's always adjustments, there's mistakes, there's also kind of all those kind of things that can happen as you're skiing. For you, what have you noticed, or what can you say about what a skier does in order to reset their mindset as quickly as they can?
Yeah, I think sports are pretty unique where they're all pretty connected in the ways that athletes like to kind of work. Everyone kind of has a similar mind, especially when they're in that kind of competition mode. But for skiers specifically, I think you know really trying to get comfortable again. Sometimes you show up and you're struggling with, just kind of feeling normal on the hill, and you kind of feel a little bit, uncomfortable. Some days you feel like Bambi on skis. That can definitely happen, but really trying to start from the basics and grounding your skiing and grounding your mind, where going back to simple basic drills, or kind of walking through a routine that really makes you feel comfortable, especially if you're in a location or in a situation that's pretty unfamiliar. Those are two kind of things that I do that helps me out quite a bit. Walking through a routine, especially right before a big run, is pretty helpful. Makes you just nice and comfortable and relaxed. Just like I had mentioned before, that's always important, is being relaxed before something like this.
Routines, keeping the mind calm. There's so much to that, right? And high stakes competition. I love it. Skiers, they have to perform at really incredibly high speeds. And in order to do that, you have to keep your edge and you have to keep pushing the edge in order to get better and better. For you, what was the process, or what would you say are the important things that you had to really think about as you were continuing to push your edge in order to just deal with a sport where there's high speeds, high things, lots at stake? What for you was important?
Just keep telling myself that I love going fast. I like going big off the jumps, and sometimes it's a little bit complicated where you don't feel like you have that drive, but remembering those days where, when you went through a really, really quick run or hit a really big jump and you made it through nice and smooth, remembering those moments. And that always kind of takes me back and say like, yeah, I'd love to do that again. I'd love to have that feeling of satisfaction. And when that kind of runs through your mind, it really gets you fired up. And as soon as you pull in and you hear that 3, 2, 1 go, your mind knows what to do, and you just keep wanting to go faster and faster.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, just really focusing on what I like to call dopamine moments, right? Where you believe there's nothing else in the world that you'd rather be doing at that given moment, which is just enjoying what you're doing there. And I think, what you're saying is that it's really important to, in this context of a competition, not to forget about that. Like, that's why you love skiing and that's why you're continuing to do it. And even though there might be nerves and so on, like, yes, you want to continue to really focus on what you love and what you enjoy about it. So finally, Stephan, for you, what advice would you give to young skiers in terms of the mental side of becoming a really good skier like you were? What advice would you give to young athletes?
I would say try to be a kid on the hill as much as you can. Everyone jumps into a sport for a reason, and if they love it a lot when they're a kid, I don't see a reason why when you get into a little bit more of a competition sense or a higher level, why you still can't be out there and love it like a kid. Sometimes the stakes may seem a little bit higher, but knowing why you want to be there, knowing why you started, kind of looking back at all those great memories in your past, I think that really helps quite a bit. Just enjoy that kid mentality of being on the ski hill. It'll definitely help you and take you quite far.
Love it like a kid. That's your
Love it
phrasing
like a
there.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and so true, right? Is that you gotta love what you're doing and stay connected to that joy and stay connected to that love. And sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But at the end of the day, it's just you really want to focus on that. Well, great stuff. I really enjoyed those insights. Thanks for joining us today, Stephen. And my sincere best wishes as you travel on into the next journey with your coaching.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks again for the opportunity.